truth seekers. Hey, I'm Pastor Ronald Kosor from Alpha Lion's Den Ministries in Derry, Pennsylvania. And we are looking for truth seekers. Now, why would that be? Because the Bible says that you shall know the truth, and it's that truth that shall set you free. See, I believe the church has been just kind of ignorant regarding some things, and I believe we're really living in the last days. And that's what we're preaching and teaching. So if you are a truth seeker, I would like to invite you to one of our services. So I thank you for tuning in today. So come with me as we review today's message.
Praise you, pray God. Lord, it's Mother's Day today. We have a great day today, and it's just that we praise you, Lord. It's going to be a great Mother's Day today. And we just pray every mom that they have a great day today because of Mother's Day. And it's just that we love you, Lord, and we praise you. And it's just that we love you, Lord, a lot. But we don't know how much you love us. The devil wants us to get away from you, but we always worship you because that's what we do. And we have a great day today, and we have a great lunch and a pleasant day. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Today, I'm going to preach about how to be saved.
Amen.
But first, I'm going to tell all the ones that come to Mother's Day today. And today I'm going to tell two stories that you never know. This is called John the Baptist. So, a man named John, he eats honey and locusts. But they're not delicious because we don't need it.
Yum, yum.
We only ate honey and healthy food.
Amen.
And I ate sugar. But we need fun things about God. Well, John, which means Jesus' cousin. And they baptized people. And Jesus came. And John said, why you come here? Just baptize me. But Jesus said, baptize me. Well, he did. And got out and went up. And guess what? God sent a dove on him. The Holy Spirit with a dove. That's a crazy with a dove. And God said, this is your son. But Joseph. But Joseph is Jesus' father. And David has saved the people. And now to be saved. My father, heart, soul, and mind.
Let's give Pastor Liam a hand this morning. Well, happy Mother's Day. Hey, I remember the one Mother's Day. I wasn't even at this church. I was preaching at another church. I'd been there for 3 or 4 years, and it was Mother's Day, and the church was packed, and I preached on Rahab the harlot. Yeah, that's what I preached on, Rahab the harlot. They didn't throw me out, I promise you. They loved it. Hey, we're living in the last days. Listen, that's why many of you are under a battle. That's why many of you are going through something. Because of the times we're living in. The assault of the devil right now is just a mere drop of what it can be. This is just like practice. This really ain't even nothing. Listen, That's right. You better practice for what's coming up. You better be prepared. Because, hey, remember when everybody thought it was crazy when Pastor Ron was preaching about if you had to go out and run a 16-mile marathon tomorrow, remember? You'd faint. You couldn't run a 16-mile marathon tomorrow. Why? Because you're not ready for it. You've not prepared for it. But listen, all these things are happening in the world right now. I'm telling you, one EMP bomb, not even a nuclear bomb, not even a war, just one bomb to blow out our electric, and we're in trouble. So with all these things just swirling around, I want you just to understand that's why some people are going through some tough times right now. Don't you think if people know what we just saw, that the devil doesn't know what's about getting ready to take place? We're at least in that season. I showed you last week where after Israel became a nation in 1948, Jesus said, this generation shall not pass. This year is the 40-year generation. 70, I mean. From 48, 70 years brings you to 2018. This is a crucial year in the history of time. Mark it down. I said this 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago. As soon as I saw it didn't happen at the 40-year mark, the next set of the generation would be 70 years. So 70 years would take us to 2018, which is the year now we're living in. Some huge things have already taken place. But I'm telling you, it's just the beginning of the birth pains. It's just the beginning. I'm trying to get to my Happy Mother's Day message. Hallelujah. Turn in your Bibles to the book of Ruth. We're going into the book of Ruth this morning. Ruth. If you can't find Ruth, it's right after Judges. Joshua, Judges, Ruth. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Joshua, Judges, Ruth. It's back there in the beginning of the book. Hallelujah. Glory to God. Listen to this. Please listen to this message. Put your ears on this morning. Pay attention. Now, it came to pass. What a way to start out a great book. Now, it came to pass. The first thing I want to tell you in your life is about faith. Listen to this. God tells us without faith it's impossible to please Him. For those that come unto God must first believe that He is. And also believe that He is a rewarder of those that diligently seek Him. Do you understand me? Your faith does not look at the things that are taking place right now. Your faith looks up here because that's where you're going to be. That's what helps us now, because the things we're going through now cannot hurt us and our family because of the faith that we have that's going to take us on and through that journey to put us over here where we know God is going to take care of us. That's all faith is. When they threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they threw them in the fiery furnace and God delivered them, they said, hey, listen, here's the attitude the church has to have right now. You have to have this. You have to say, even if my God does not deliver me, I will still serve Him. You must have that. Even though if God does not deliver me, I am not going to bend my knee to Baal. I believe that our God is going to deliver us. He's going to take us through and He's going to take care of us. I don't care how it looks. So they threw him in the fire. Does that mean God wasn't with them? No. God delivered them out of that fire. It said they didn't even smell like smoke. I'm trying to get to my Mother's Day message. Be patient. Now it come to pass, it means this too shall pass. Everything that you're going through at some time is going to pass. I mean, I always say this. Listen, you're rather coming out of a trial and a tribulation, you're presently in one, or you're going to go into one. You're coming out of one, you're presently in one, or you're going to go into a trial and tribulation. So what do? Do we ball up and cry? Do we ball up and give up? Do we take our ball and leave? Listen, I got to tell you this. You're in a battle that you can't leave. You're in a battle. You got to fight the battle until you get the victory. If not, remember when I preached at the Lion's Den about the pink briefcase? That you go around the mountain just like the children of Israel. The exact same thing. Around the mountain. The exact same thing. Around the mountain. Until you pass the test. And then God promotes you into the promised land. You with me? Now it came to pass that in the days when the judges ruled, thank God somebody was ruling, that there was a famine. Listen, sometime in your life you are in a famine season. Things dry up. Things don't look good. People are starving. Things are dropping all around you. That doesn't mean that God has left you. You're just in a famine season. You're in a time of difficulty. Right. But my Bible tells me that God causes all things to work together for the good, for them that love Him and who are called according to His purpose. He'll never leave us nor forsake us. There was a famine in the land, and a certain man. Remember, we're going to do a series one of these days on a certain people. Cornelius was a certain man. But here we have a certain man of Bethlehem. Remember who came out of Bethlehem? Jesus. Yeah, Jesus. Bethlehem of Judea. He went to dwell in the countryside of Moab. He and his wife and his 2 sons. So hey, he had wife, 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech. The name of his wife was Naomi. And the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion, the Ephrathites of Bethlehem of Judah. And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. So listen, this woman is in the midst of a complete famine. Are you with me? I'm trying to give you a happy Mother's Day message. This woman was in an absolute famine. People's dropping all around her. People were starving. Then guess what happened? Her husband dies. Then what she's relying upon is her 2 sons and their wives. So it says, and she was left with her 2 sons. So thank God she had somebody around to help her and that she could rely upon and lean upon. Now they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the names of the others were Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. So here is another period. It just shows a time frame in your life that you are in these seasons of difficulty. Listen, the famine didn't totally stop. The husband was still dead. Then both Mahlon and Chilion, guess what? They also died. So here's a woman in a powerful place, but yet famine strikes her. Then she loses her husband. Then she's relying on her sons to take care of her. And then both of her sons die. I mean, what else could she have had left? They're living in great famine. They're barely hanging on. The husband that's the provider, he passes away. She hangs on to the 2 sons. We know this is about a 10-year period. Then both of her sons die. It's a great Mother's Day story. So the women survived her 2 sons and her husband. So now what she's left with is the, should be the mother-in-law, right? Thank God for mother-in-laws. I told Betty she's the best mother-in-law I got. How Betty? See? So some of you will figure that out later. But so the women survived her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughter-in-law, so these will be her daughter-in-laws, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. Listen, bread in the Bible represents provision. God is our Jehovah Jireh. The government's not my Jehovah Jireh. Nobody's my Jehovah Jireh beside my Jehovah Jireh. And I know this. If I seek him first, if I do according to the Bible what I am told to do, God has no choice but to do what he says he's going to do. If God says he will provide for me, and if I do this, and if I do that, and if I do this, if I do that, God has to provide. If I don't do the things and I don't live according to his word, God does not have to provide. That's just the way it is. If not, everybody's all the same. We're not all the same. We're different in the kingdom. The way you live in the kingdom, you're treated differently in the kingdom. So listen, my friend, proper positioning brings about protection and provision, peace and power. Proper positioning in your life. You've got to be at the right place, physically, spiritually. You've got to be tied into where God tells you to tie in. You've got to do what you've got to do to stay there. How many people in our ministry have we seen in and out and in and out, and God heals them from sickness, I mean disease, on their deathbeds. And then you never see them again, till they're in the hospital again, then you get the phone call, or to do the funeral. That's usually what happens. I believe in preventive maintenance. Therefore, she went out from the place where she was. Usually there's the famine and the death and the things in your life that you love because of bad decisions and bad positioning in your life. That's what causes that. Galatians 6:7 tells us, look, be not deceived, which tells me some people can be deceived. Do not, he said, do not be deceived, for God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, this is what he is going to reap. So when you see, if you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep getting the same results. You've got to change things in the kingdom of God so you get positioned properly. Then you will see the manifestation in your flesh. God showed me the other day, I looked at a couple of these guys that I knew were construction workers. I mean, construction workers make all the money, right, Greg? The construction makers make good money. But these guys are driving down the road and they have a car that's worth about $500. The doors are all beat in, the muffler's hanging on the ground, and I'm thinking, what are you doing in that position? But think about how many people you know that have excellent jobs, good income, and they're broke. There's a devourer. Malachi 3 talks about a devourer. And if you don't know who he is, he's devouring you. Jesus said the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I come that they would have life and have life more abundantly. That's what I want for you, the abundant life. So she had to get out of there. She said she heard that over in the other country of Moab, that the Lord had visited his people by giving them bread. Therefore, she went out from the place that she was. You got to get out of where you were. If you are not absolutely content with the provision and the things that God are giving you, you need to examine yourself around and see if there needs to be a change spiritually. When I think of the things that people are being taught in this world, I understand why the world is in the position it's in. She got out of there. She left the place where she was, and her two daughter-in-laws with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her two daughter-in-laws, go return each to her mother's house. She told him, listen, don't even go with me anymore. I've lost everything. I'm going on my own now. You need to go. And she said, the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. They stuck with her through all the death, all the hard times, all the problems. The Lord grant that you may find rest each in the house of her husband. So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept, and they said to her, surely we will return with you to your people. So they wanted to stick with her. But Naomi said, turn back, my daughters, and why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb that they may be your husbands? In other words, you can't stay with me now. I'm too old. I'm not going to bear sons for you to have. So don't stay with me for sons. Turn back, my daughters, and go, for I am too old to have a husband. And if I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband tonight and also bear sons, would you wait for them till they're grown up? So she said, listen, this is pretty much a bad situation here for us. You need to just go on your own. Would you restrain yourselves from having husbands? No, my daughters, for it grieves me very much for your sakes, that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Do you see that? This woman, Naomi, is thinking that the hand of God has went out against her. Why? Because of some circumstances? Listen, we are to control our circumstances. Our circumstances are not to control us. Now that sounds sweet, but when you're in the middle of a mess, that has to be in your heart, in your spirit, to realize that circumstances do not control us. We control our circumstances. Do you understand that? Naomi, did you hear what she said? She said the hand of the Lord is against her. God really wasn't against her. That's just what she saw. Now listen, my Bible tells me this. Hear this. As a man thinketh, so is he. I can't tell you how many times I hear people, oh, the devil this, the devil that. The devil this, the devil's chasing me, the devil's beating up on me, the devil's taking stuff from me, the devil. I said, well, you know what? I'll guarantee you one thing. The devil's probably taking all that stuff from you. Well, why do you say that? Because you keep giving him credit for taking the stuff. You keep opening up that doorway. In our mouth lies life and death. The power of life and death is in our tongue. Verse 14. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law. Listen to this. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. You must be able to cling on to the people that God has placed you with. If not, you will just be ripped around and tossed around through your entire life, and you'll go through the same thing over and over and over again. I got tired of being the dish rag. You ever see one of them big old pit bulls grab one of them little dish rags? They toss it, rip it around, and that dish rag, that's what I was like. I felt like I was the dish rag. I said, Lord, I ain't supposed to be a dish rag. You said I'm to be the head, not the tail, the lender, not the borrower. God gave us promises. But until I learned when I was to give, what I was to do, what I was not to worship, what I was to worship, don't think that these things don't have an effect on your life. Amen. Jesus said, we're going to partake in communion today. Jesus said, for this reason, many are sick among you. Why? Because they don't have a right to judge their body. They're participating in idolatry and partaking place of the Lord's table, the Lord's Supper. That's why it happened. Ruth clung on to her. Ruth said, this is my blessing. This is my provision. This is my commitment. I am not going to leave her.
And she said, look, your sister-in-law has gone back. I thought, man, why did she do that? Why would you leave her and go back? And then I thought, well, go back where? I seriously was thinking this as I was reading this. I was sitting there at my desk, and then I thought, well, I'll just continue reading. It said she went back to her people and to other gods. The gods they were serving was all good old Baal and Easter and Tammuz. It says, why would you go back to your people and to her gods, return after your sister-in-law? But here's the way we need to think. Listen, these are the kind of people that I look for. These are the kind of people that I look for. There is just coincidence or just casual relationships that you have with people. And then there are people of covenant. Amen. If people don't even know what covenant is, how are they going to walk with you in covenant? I'm trying to show you something on Mother's Day. He said, entreat me, Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you. I don't want to leave. Most pastors are begging the people to stay and the people are leaving. The leader's saying, go ahead and leave. And Ruth is so committed by the covenant that she made, she's saying, listen, I am not leaving. Entreat me not to leave or turn back from following after you. Don't do that. For wherever you go, I will go. And wherever you live, I'm going to live. Lord, your people shall say, be my people, and your God, my God. And where you die, that's where I'm going to die. Now listen, there's a lot of people that I left behind in my life. A lot of people followed me for the stuff that they wanted. And some people still do that. But there are people of covenant. There are people that, listen, if someone eats their hot dog, they're not going to leave. One day they're with you. Oh, I'll die with you. I'll die with you. Just like Peter was telling Jesus, I'll be with you. I'll never leave you. Well, then one day we don't have enough hot dog buns, or someone ate their hot dog, or someone ate their piece of cake. I mean, I'm serious, and people get all mad. And then they leave over the craziest stuff. She said, where you die, I will die. No, this is covenant. And there I will be buried. The Lord, this is covenant here. The Lord, do so to me and more. If anything but death parts you and me. That's covenant. People don't even know what covenant is. People don't know what true love is. People know what lust is. There's a difference. When she saw that she was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her. Now the two of them went until they came to Bethlehem. And it happened. Thank God they got to the place where the Messiah. And it came to pass when they had come to Bethlehem that all the city was excited because of them. And the woman said, hey, isn't this Naomi? She's back. But she said to them, do not call me Naomi anymore. Call me Mara. For the Lord has dealt very bitterly with me. Listen, I went out full. I went out, I had everything. She said, I went out full, and the Lord has dealt, and the Lord has brought me home again empty. Why do you call me Naomi? Since the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me. Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab. Now they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Hey, do you know what that is? barley harvest is one of the feasts that we always preach about. But Pastor Ron always preaches about the feast, so I'm not going to even tell you what that means right there. You have to find out for yourself. There was a relative of Naomi's husband, a man of great wealth. Now listen, you don't need anybody of great wealth until you need wealth. A man of great wealth of the family of Elimelech. His name was Boaz. So Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, please let me go to the field and glean heads of grain after him, in whose sight I might find favor. Listen, favor trumps talent all the time. Amen. Favor trumps talent all the time. Amen. You need to be where you need to be and be with who you are with in order to receive favor from God. It takes the load off of you trying to earn it all the time, because that's not the best way to get it. The best way to get it is through favor. God can change your entire life in 1 second. God can bring favor to your life in 1 second. Boom. I can't even tell you the stuff that's happened in our lives since we learned the ways of the kingdom and the secrets of the kingdom, the way we live now, the things that have happened in our life, because you wouldn't believe me. And then if you believe me, it would cause you to be jealous, and then I'll lose you because you're jealous. So the only way I can tell you is, look, you got to do what you're supposed to do in order to find favor from God. Because even when you think God is not watching you, He's watching you. And she said to her, go, my daughter. So she left and went and gleaned the fields. This is the time. Over here where it says it was the barley harvest. I'm not even going to get into the feast right now. But there was a time in the feasts that they had to come to glean the harvest of the land. And listen, what they were told to do is they didn't glean or take the fruit off of the corners of the field. The corners of the field were left by the rich people to give the poor people something to eat. So they didn't take all the grain. They left the edges of their field so the poor people could come and glean off the corners of all the fields so they would have something to eat. This is the way God blessed the people that needed food. That's why it's good now to bless people with food. That's why I do what I do that way. I try to help as many people as I can that way. Because there's a blessing in that. So listen, so she left and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. So the reapers come in, they do what they're going to do, they clean the whole field out, and then she come by and would get the scraps off the table. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. This was her relative. Now behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, the Lord be with you. So he's praying for those that he's doing business with. He's praying for his workers. We went out yesterday to the hoagie sale, right? 300 hoagies in about 2 hours. Listen, consistently, that's hard to do. I mean, think about that. We assemble in the back room, we pray, we ask for God's blessing. We go out with 300 subs and we sell them within a 2-hour period. Try to do that sometime. That is hard to do. You'll be out there all day in the rainstorm, you'll lose 100 subs, you'll lose money, you'll be crying.